The cold, barren expanse of the planet's surface stretched out endlessly, a bleak wasteland where life had no place. Dust clouds swirled in the air, and the sky was choked with the thick haze of a failing atmosphere. Nothing moved, nothing could. At least, that's what the inhabitants of the galaxy had believed. Far from the Galactic Council's eyes, a small, injured alien lay motionless on the surface. Her body was a blend of sleek silver scales and semi-translucent flesh, the remnants of an ancient and proud species, long lost to the cosmos. Her green eyes, now clouded with pain, flickered open weakly. The alien, once revered as one of the last survivors of a forgotten empire, had been left behind. Her people had abandoned her, their efforts in her rescue proving futile. She had been betrayed, orphaned by the very race that had once declared her their savior. Betrayed by the ones who had promised to protect her, who had left her alone on a planet once ruled by her kind. Now, she was nothing more than a living relic. She could feel her strength draining away. Her wounds were severe, the result of a merciless attack by the rival species who had crushed her empire. In the end, they had left her for dead, seeing her as a symbol of the old order, something to be extinguished. But in that final, desperate act of abandonment, they had underestimated one thing. They had forgotten about humanity. Unseen by the Council, unnoticed by the alien races who thought themselves superior, the humans had been watching. The humans, they had been there all along, lurking just beyond the edges of known space, waiting for the perfect moment to intervene. A single figure descended from the dark sky, his starship cutting through the thick atmosphere like a knife. Its sleek, angular design reflected the dying light of the sun as it touched down with remarkable precision. The landing gear clanged loudly as it made contact with the cracked earth, but to the alien, it was a sound of salvation. The figure stepped out from the craft, the faint hiss of the airlock ceiling behind him as he surveyed the desolate landscape. His battle-worn armor gleamed in the fading light, a testament to the countless missions he had endured. But his eyes, hidden behind a dark visor, were focused solely on the injured alien who lay in the dust before him. He had been tracking a distress signal, one he had detected on his ship's scanners during a routine patrol. What he found was unexpected. There, in the dead center of this forsaken planet, was a creature no other species would have cared to save. The man knelt beside her, his gloved hand gently touching her side. He could feel the heat radiating off her, the faint pulse of life that was hanging by a thread. It was a feeling he knew too well. He had seen it before in the eyes of those left behind in the countless wars he had fought. The survivors, if they could even be called that, had always been the ones to suffer the most. "Hey, you're not alone," he murmured, his voice low, almost a whisper against the deafening silence of the planet. "I'm here." The alien's eyes flickered, her breath shallow and strained. She could hear him, but her mind was still fogged with pain. She had never expected help, especially not from humans, such a primitive species in the eyes of the Galactic Council. Humans had no place in the complex politics of the galaxy, no influence in the grand games played by those who ruled the stars. They were just human, but this human was different. She managed to lift a shaky hand, pointing weakly toward a distant hill where the remnants of an ancient structure could be seen. Her voice, barely a rasp, came out in her native tongue. "Temple. Must go there." The human followed her gaze, scanning the horizon. A few kilometers away, the ruins of what could only be described as an ancient, forgotten temple loomed. No one would have thought it worth investigating, not even the highest of the galactic empires. Yet, to the alien, it held something more valuable than the treasure of 1,000 worlds: hope. Her vision was growing blurry again, but before she could lose consciousness, the human stood and gently cradled her in his arms. His armor was cold, but his touch was warm, steady. He wasn't like the others, no. This human had no hidden agenda, no political game to play. He wasn't doing this for glory or recognition. He was doing it because, unlike the Galactic Council or her own people, he believed that everyone, no matter how forgotten, deserved the chance at survival. He moved swiftly, navigating the rocky terrain with the injured alien in his arms. Keeping his pace steady, the wind howled, carrying with it the whispers of long-forgotten battles. It was only when they reached the ruins that he paused. The alien's hand squeezed his arm weakly. She was trying to speak, but the words wouldn't come. With a gentle sigh, the human set her down in front of a stone archway. Her strength had all but failed her, but in that moment, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She had been abandoned by her people, forgotten by the galaxy, but this human had found her. He had saved her when no one else would. The human knelt beside her, pulling out a small device from his pack. It hummed to life as he pressed it against her skin, a wave of energy pulsing through her body. She could feel the healing effects almost immediately, her breathing becoming easier, her pain dulling. "You'll be okay now," the human said softly. "You're not alone anymore." And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, the alien allowed herself to believe it. The galaxy may have abandoned her, but in that moment, a human had found her, and in doing so, had saved her life. Not all hope was lost, not while humans still existed.